Why do producers always overcomplicate their songs? Are you the producer that uses 100 tracks for one song with different elements overlapping each other? Or do you have 10 different layers for the same lead melody? Often I find producers feel like they have to in order to achieve a complex and technical mix or a full and cohesive sound they're looking for. But I think this is the wrong way to go about production. For me, by far the most important reason as to why you would use fewer sounds in your track is to have more fun when producing. First of all, for me, detailed mixing is a burden and not something fun. I want to spend as little time as I have to doing it. If you've got 10 layers going on, it's really difficult to control them all and have them not fighting for space and cluttering up your mix, because you'd have loads of different sounds competing for the exact same range of frequencies. I think producing minimally is also way easier than overcomplicating the process. I mentioned in my video about workflow how spending time on the idea rather than the mix will allow you to progress much faster as a producer. And this reinforces that too. By spending less time on the mix and making sure that everything fits, you can now focus on the few individual elements. Of course, layering isn't bad. You should definitely layer, especially with noise sounds in my opinion, because they create this really nice texture on top of your sounds. But you have to ensure that they're playing different frequency ranges so there's an audible difference. For example, if you have one saw lead and you add a noise layer on top, these are now occupying different frequency ranges. But if you added one saw lead and then 3 other saw leads playing the exact same melody in the exact same frequency ranges, these 4 saws are now only going to be competing against each other rather than complementing each other. And this makes your job so much harder as a producer. You might not even be using many layers for your sound. You may just have hundreds of different elements playing on top of each other. Having one main element and a few other sounds supplementing underneath really enhance that core sound and that focus in your track. It makes your song so much easier to listen to when it's not so overcomplicated and busy. Many producers want to make their song as complicated as possible for other producers to suck them up, feed their ego, and feed their insecurities. And they don't actually aim to make a good song for their own sake. I was exactly like this a few years ago. I was so focused on making the song as weird as possible and as complicated as possible, but not even for my own sake. You do it for the other producers around you, and you end up not making the music that you truly want to make. You might have a belief that it's not possible to create cool songs with just a few elements, but I found that's almost never the case. Let me show you 2 ideas I just quickly made. So we're in the DAW now, and I've made these 2 kind of deep house tracks. And the second one sounds like this. The key to making them sound full despite not having many things going on is the processing. All these 3 sounds don't actually have any external processing, as you can see. It's all inside the plugin. Today, I've actually dropped my first preset pack for Vital. It's called Spirit Volume 1. I'm super proud of this pack. I've been working on it for some time now, so if you want to go check it out, there'll be a link in the description. All the sounds used in these 2 ideas have been made using presets from Spirit. Nothing else, no external processing, only the presets in that pack. So in my personal opinion, I think the quality is quite good if you can make 2 ideas with only a few melodic sounds on each. But I'll just break down the 2 tracks and the presets if you want to see them as well. So the drums aren't anything complicated. We got a kick, the clap, a shaker loop, a hat, and some closed hats. For the synths, we first got this bass. This is the preset called Bass Smooth. It's just a really nice, warm, distorted preset. For processing on a bass, in my opinion, it's really about getting that warm low end through compression and through some distortion. It's not anything too complicated, but this sound, in my opinion, is my favorite because it sounds so good just on its own. This is the preset called Holistic. It seems pretty complicated, but it's not actually that complicated. It's the same preset I broke down when I was making video on analog synths, but I included it in this pack because I thought it was really cool. We got a chorus, compressor, distortion, and a reverb. The reverb is really what's giving that wet sound, which makes it stand out on its own. And then we got this really weird lead, which sounds like this. What's giving it the character is the sine wave that's just getting more harmonics over time with this LFO. And on the effects, we got loads of different things going on. Of course, I'm promoting my preset pack here, but you don't need my pack to make minimal tracks. I just think personally the key is to focus on the processing of individual sounds rather than layering 100 different things on top of each other. Then lastly, we got this thing for the second half, which is just this preset called Retro Synth. It's just adding a nice vibe in the background. And now, because there's only so few elements, it's really easy to mix the whole thing together. The second track is even more minimal, but that's because I was too lazy to actually program the drums myself, so I just pulled it in a loop. If you told me 2 years ago that I can make a full sounding track using only 6 elements, I wouldn't have believed it. But again, it's because that you make each individual element sound full on its own, and then everything comes together. First, if we start with the bass, I think it's the same preset as before, bass smooth. I really like this preset, so you can go check that out if you want. Next, we got these chords, and they're called Drift Off. They sound like this. It's a really nice warm saw sound that's just been filtered and modulated by the envelope, and some different effects on it. Should actually just cut off the low end like that, just to make it fit in the track. Next, we got this sound. Also a really nice wet sound, but this is that classic deep house kind of pluck that I've heard in hundreds of tracks now. I just wanted to add it because I think it sounds cool. This is where the pitch automation comes from, if you see it up here. But the preset itself, it's called Simple Pluck because it really is simple. It's just a saw wave, some noise, filter, and these kind of effects. So these 3 elements sound like this. The last and most interesting element is this melody. Sounds like this. Call it lead form because of the formant. It's the effects that does everything. You got a compressor, delay, a formant filter, some downsample distortion for the crunch, some reverb, and some EQ. But it sounds really nice in my opinion. And again, that's with no external effects on any of these besides an EQ here. But it also goes to show you can do so much inside an actual free VST, you don't have to rely on external VST plugins. But that's kind of all I had for this video. I really just wanted to shed some light on the fact that you don't have to overcomplicate the songs if you don't want to. And it is possible to make full and cohesive sounding tracks using only a few elements. I know the 2 tracks I made today were more chill. They're deep house tracks, so they don't have to be as busy and as energetic. But the same principles go for pretty much any genre. Focus on nailing the individual elements rather than layering hundreds of different sounds. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to check out my preset pack, there will be a link in the description. But yeah, nonetheless, I will see you guys next time.